Ever wonder how investigators track down a criminal syndicate when there's no obvious trail? No phone calls, no emails, just nothing? Well, today we're going to peek inside the toolkit they use to map those invisible networks and see the connections that are meant to stay hidden. Right, so here's the fundamental challenge. You've got terrorist cells, political plots, criminal empires, and they all survive by being ghosts in the machine. Their entire structure is built to avoid detection. So how on earth do you even begin to map something like that? It seems almost impossible. And this is really the heart of the problem. Sophisticated groups, they know all about modern surveillance. They are experts at not leaving a digital trail. So when investigators can't just tap a phone or read an email, they've got to get really creative to connect the dots. So how do they pull it off? Well, the first tool in their kit is this really clever technique for finding connections where, on the surface, none seem to exist. It's all about finding a stand-in, a proxy, for a real relationship. This first trick is called a co-occurrence network, and you can kind of think of it as digital detective work. The idea is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. If two people keep showing up in the same place at the same time, say at a political fundraiser, a corporate board meeting, or even just being mentioned in the same news articles over and over, you can start to infer a link between them. It becomes a proxy for a real social tie. So how does it work in practice? Well, analysts will scrape huge amounts of public data. We're talking news reports, company filings, social media, you name it. And they're just looking for names that pop up together. And every time they find a meaningful overlap, boom, they draw a line, creating a link. And slowly, bit by bit, a map of this hidden network starts to take shape. And listen, this isn't just some academic theory. This is a powerful tool being used right now. It's been used to map out elite political networks in places like Nigeria, and even to get a glimpse of the hidden power structures in North Korea, places where official records are either completely secret or they just don't exist. It's a way to shine a light into some very dark corners.
Okay, so you've built this map of connections, but that's really just the beginning of the story. To really get what's going on, you have to start looking at the hidden layers of that network.
Because think about it, a line on a chart is simple, right? But human relationships are anything but. That link you just found, does it mean they're business partners? Or are they family? Or is it something more sinister, like a criminal conspiracy? If you don't know the how, you don't really have the full picture. And this brings us to this really critical idea called multiplexity. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it just means that any two people can be connected in multiple ways at the same time. They might be business partners, sure, but maybe they're also cousins who are involved in some shady stuff together. Mapping all those different layers is the key to understanding how strong that network really is. And this illustrates the difference perfectly. On the left, you see the simple network, just one business link. But look at the right. The multiplexed network shows you what's really going on. That business tie is reinforced by family bonds and criminal bonds. Now that is a connection that's going to be incredibly tough to break. So here's why this matters so much. If you only go after one layer of the network, it's just going to bounce back. You can shut down the front company, but if those deep family or criminal ties are still there, they'll just rebuild. And that is a massive headache for law enforcement when they're trying to dismantle these organizations for good. All right, so we've got our map, we understand its layers, but now we come to every investigator's worst nightmare. What if the map is wrong? What if a key person is just missing? This is, without a doubt, the single biggest threat to any kind of network analysis. If you're missing a person, what analysts call a node, your entire understanding of the network can be completely wrong. You might think you're looking at two separate, small-time crews, when in reality there's one missing person who's the linchpin connecting them into one giant syndicate. So how do analysts even try to measure that risk? Well, they use this pretty advanced mathematical tool called spectral distance. Now, you don't need to be a math whiz here. All you need to know is that it's a way to put a number on how much the network structure changes if you take out a person or a link. It basically quantifies the danger of having an incomplete picture. And this is where it gets really interesting. Researchers applied this exact kind of analysis to real-world data from mafia investigations. And what they found? Well, it completely changes the game for how you should gather intelligence. Okay, check this out. The research showed that if you missed 10% of the interactions, the phone calls, the meetings, what they call the edges, it has almost no effect. The big picture of the network stays surprisingly accurate. It barely makes a dent. But What happens if you miss just a tiny fraction of the actual people involved? We're talking just 2% of the members of the network. The result is an absolute catastrophe. The accuracy of the network model just falls off a cliff by as much as 80%. The entire analysis becomes dangerously wrong. I mean, just think about that for a second. Missing a dozen phone calls? Fine. Missing one or two key people? Your entire investigation could go completely off the rails. So, this discovery, it completely flips our whole understanding of what investigators should really be targeting when they're trying to take down one of these covert networks. It all comes down to one incredibly important and honestly pretty counterintuitive lesson for anyone who's trying to get a handle on these groups. Here's the bottom line. The people are more important than their interactions. For an investigator, the number one job shouldn't be capturing every single phone call, but identifying every single person. The nodes are infinitely more critical than the edges. Knowing who is in the network, that's the master key. And that leaves us with this really fascinating final thought. In our world, a world that is obsessed with big data, with capturing every single message, every transaction, this research suggests that maybe, just maybe, the oldest form of intelligence, simply knowing all the players on the field, is still the most powerful tool of all.